What are you doing? Get the hell out of my seat, man! Blah, blah, blah. Ah, yes. So I'm drinking a Mischief beer by a company called The Brewery. It is a Belgian ale. Belgians are my favorite, and I deserve this. This is my reward to myself for all the work that I did today on the car. Ton of fun. I had a lot of fun today working on it. I don't really get a lot of time where I can spend all day just knocking stuff out. And anyways, I had a blast today. I got the floor completely done. I know whoever the hell is watching these videos, you are completely tired of seeing all the same pictures and videos of the floor. They're not really intuitive. They're not exactly how-tos. They're probably pretty boring for some people, but nonetheless, the floor is done and the seam sealer's on. 415 came in while I was working today, so I got an UPS shipment. And I'm gonna 415 the whole top of the floor, and then tomorrow hopefully we'll get the subframe fingers unbolted or unboxed and put under the floor and see how they fit. So hope you enjoy. Cheers. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Because I've got basically an entire day, it's 11 o'clock, to work on the Mustang. I'm going to try to get the cross brace in and get the floor completed. I've ordered a little rivet gun so I can get some of those lines, few lines tacked back up to the floor. They were originally riveted on, so I want to rivet those back on. And we're going to try to get the floor completed. And I got some tidy up work to do. You know, like I need to put the seat braces on the driver's side that I forgot to do when I put the driver pan in. And that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. And then let me show you guys what else we got going on here. So I've got the shifter boot off, and I got those rings sitting in some rust remover. I'm going to try to remove the rust on those, clean those up. So they're sitting inside in a bowl of Miracle Rust or something like that. We'll see how that works. Let it sit there for a few days. But I'm going to mark the trans cross member and clean it up. We got to fill in the holes and weld it in. But first, let's get this guy in. So I had this idea, since the pan's already in, I was going to try to use the bolt to hold it into the pan so I can weld the bottom of it. So let's see. Remember, that goes to the back of the car. Like a couple of washers and a spacer here. Try to get it as centered as possible. Hold it tight so I can keep the center. Alright, so that worked fairly well. That guy came out pretty centered. That one did not. It was a little bit to the back. So that's why we're going to test fit the seat right now to make sure that everything is squared and going to work. Then we'll trace out the cross frame. Okay, I want to talk real quick about this driver's seat here. You can see it's dirty. It's in pretty rough shape. I don't have money to replace it or really fix it, so one bad thing about it is not only was this side of the seat falling through the floor, but this side of the seat was also collapsed itself. So it literally felt like you were leaning so far up against the driver's door when you're trying to drive it. It just didn't work. So I decided to flip this thing upside down and to see, kind of take a look at the rails on it. Also, the seat would not slide forward and back at all, as you guys remember in one of the earlier videos. So I'll show you what I did the other night as I was bored and just kind of hanging out here. Yes, everybody go ahead and laugh, do what you want. So okay, so what I've done, and I wish you guys could really see how bad this is not a terrible solution. It makes it a little bit more solid to drive. I'm going to end up running a screw here and there, and yes, I'm keeping the wood in it until I can replace it and get it all fixed. It was a quick, cheap, free fix, and the seat now sits level. Also, this guy right here, because the lean and bend on it was so bad, it has come undone from the seat itself. So we're going to grind that off. We're going to put a weld on that, hold that down, and this rod was broken. So I took some baling wire, got it real tight, tied up against both, and guess what? After greasing the seat rails, both sides, if I do this right, you can see both rails are being released, and you can now slide this back and forth. So anyways, that was a cheap, free fix. I've taken this seat rail off from that tug bolt. The bottom bolt's been broken, just so I can get some bare metal, put a weld on it, and look at the bow in this thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with big people, but judging by those seats' condition and falling through the floor, a very heavy man or woman must have driven this car, because there was at some point a lot of weight on this thing. That, or like I said earlier, somebody decided to carry an engine block in the front seat. So I don't know, I can either just tack weld it and then, you know, get it hot and then try to, you know, hope it'll kind of get back into place and straighten up, or I put a hammer to it here and a block of wood. Okay, ghetto seat fix is done. Just did a little bit of welding there on the bottom, keep it from going anywhere. Ran a screw here and here to keep that board in place. And anyways, I've got the seats both do retract. Yeah. So anyways, we'll get this thing bolted in and see how it fits. Alright, the seat bolts down. All four corners matched up just fine. Of course, if you lean on the back seat, it tries to pull up the cross member that's just sitting on the floor, but it lines up, and for the first time ever, my front seat is sitting level with the car, so that's cool. This thing was leaning so far, and in fact, the still enough cushion. The board's not too bad. Yep, it's nice and firm. So all these seat adjustments work now, which is cool. I can slide it. Slides back quick, actually. So I can slide forward and backwards. I'm going to adjust the leg brace thing. So, may not be pretty, but it's functional now. Whee! Okay, I got the cross brace welded in. I got one more plug hole. And if I have any advice, whenever you use a spot weld cutter, man, make sure you don't go all the way through the floor, because that really creates a shit ton more work. I'm 3 hours into this, and there's obviously a ton of plug welds to have to fill. But trying to fill the holes where I went through was the biggest kind of a pain in the ass. What I did was cut metal and actually lay over the holes, weld over the holes, and then right next to it drilled a new plug weld and plug weld next to it. So anything that I covered up, I created a new plug weld. So man, some of these welds are really crappy, I'm not gonna lie. They're kind of boogery. Mostly because the metal just was thin, where it started to rust on some of the spots on the cross brace. But I don't know, you can't see this in person, you can't check this out, but there's way more welds on this than it had from Ford, and all the plugs welding in are much much bigger than what Ford uses with the robots. So needless to say, I'm pretty confident this floor is much stronger than it was before. It may not be pretty, but it's stronger. So got one more weld to do. I'm going to vacuum up, and I got to go to the store and get some seam sealer so we can start seam sealing this guy. Okay, before I go to the store and get some seam sealer, I wanted to pull the wiring back through the firewall here and hook the relay back up to the fuel pump and just start the car to make sure I didn't F anything up with all this wiring before we go any further with seam sealer. So I'm going to start it. So I decided while I'm at the floor and have the seats ripped out to go ahead and rip the dash out. I know that this is missing some bulbs, or some bulbs are out in it. So I went ahead and pulled it out, just to check all the bulbs in it. And one of the bulbs was laying in the back. So, and I noticed that, you know, when I drove it, this was not lit up at all. Maybe like one light was on over here and a couple on over here. So the dash was not very well lit. So I pulled it out to check the bulbs, and you know, it's really dirty, so I'm going to go ahead and while it's out, take a microfiber cloth and some glass cleaner, get this really clean. Okay, so I cleaned it up with some Windex, but I used my 3M finishing glaze on the glass here, or on the plastic, try to get some of that haze off of it. And I've done it on the oil, fuel, speedometer, and the tachometer, but not on the amp and temp gauge. So hoping you can kind of see the difference. Gauge plastic polished on it, and I picked up SEM Presidio, and this is not too far off. The original color is going to be right here where it's not worn or faded, and it's kind of hard to tell from the cap, but it looks pretty close. We're going to give it a shot and spray the underside of it and spray the whole thing. And anyways, we'll see how close this stuff is to charcoal gray and how it looks. But either way, it'll tidy it up quite a bit before I can get a replacement. I did have this. This is a vinyl prep that you're supposed to put on it beforehand. It just kind of softens the vinyl and opens the pores up a little bit, so it allows it to the paint to penetrate. It's really an eyesore. I mean, I look at it every time I come in the garage, and it's just kind of nasty. Okay, I know it's dark in the garage, it's hard to see, but there's the dash. That's been painted. It could be worse, could be better. It's quite an improvement though from the POS that we had on it before. Here, let's turn some light on it. Okay, so I got the dash redone, or temporarily redone. This is super temporary because I'll be replacing it with a charcoal one. The color is more of a light gray. It's definitely not. It's not a charcoal color that it should be, but it's probably gonna be a pretty close match to the carpet. Windshield's dirty, but anyways, the cracks are still there, and I don't know why the cracks there because they forced that speaker into the dash. But I know it's hard to tell from this video. Ended up checking every one of the bulbs in it, and it turns out that the bulbs were okay, but the contacts weren't. I had to end up taking up all the little pieces of the bulb holders and replacing them. But all the lights work now in the dash, so that's cool. Okay, it's been seam sealed, and we gotta wait for it to dry. Probably putting port 15 on it. Won't do that for a couple days probably. But anyways, I think I'm gonna go take a break and break out the subframe connectors and we'll take a look.